untaken care of for 2 weeks. And when she finally had the ear infection taken care of, she had a balance problem the rest of her life. What would 8 months of fevers do to a person? And when he said, my body's broken. So I do think that's where Dr. Still got unsteady, and the walking stick with the orthotics. Because when you're pigeon-toed, you're actually pretty well balanced.
But you don't have his femur in there.
We don't.
He always has a femur.
Well, we actually, the funny thing is, we actually, in his autobiography, he says, I carried around a sack full of darky bones, so we know it was a black person. Black people couldn't be buried in the cemetery. They could bury them on the outside. So he probably just dug up what was on the outside, and we do actually have the last of those bones. They're in a casing. These are his last bones. Now we think, well, how do you know? Except in 1909, in a picture, he dies in 1917, in the anatomy lab is this thing with the sign saying these are the last of his bones. So if Dr. Still didn't believe in it, I don't think he would have let it hang in the lab. So it's kind of fun. So, of course, blistering, bleeding, poisoning, this was, basically what medicine was and what he was fighting against. You basically had to fight the treatment, arsenic, opiates. I think it's funny that they're back in the news. And that's what Dr. Still said. This is crazy what we're doing to people. So he said, none of this is good. He goes, eat well, exercise, good thinking, and manipulation, and for the most part, you'll be better. And so all these came along, plant therapies, water therapies, hypnosis. These are still around today as supporters of health, but they're not a health philosophy that osteopathy is.
So I heard this legend, maybe you know whether
it could be a legend.
True or not, that when Dr. Still went to San Francisco for the AMA to present his school of medicine,
right,
that homeopathy and hydropathy and all of those were there, and the debate got so bad that there were gunshots on the convention floor.
Well, there might.
And that's when Dr. Still said, "I don't need this," and went to Kirksville and started the school.
I do know that he said that osteopathy could take in all the natural sciences. He did say that and do quite well. And he says it's unfortunate that didn't happen. So I think he supported these as supports. And mental health, hypnosis is not a bad idea. Plants, as he says, any pharmaceutical you put in the body is alien, and the body actually reacts against it, where actually plants are taken as food. In the Chinese, the word for food and medicine is the same word. So I could see why he thought that plants will naturally work with the body. But anything else might be actually an alien substance. So I thought that was interesting. And you have to consider when he said no pharmaceuticals, well, they were opium, arsenic, and mercury. Those were the three. What else would you use? So I think he said, yeah, those don't work, and alcohol. So I think what he was basically telling us was that until we know more, we shouldn't be using drugs. Now here's the funny thing is, out in our garden, we've got something called bone set. It's a plant used for 300 years. It's an antiviral. You make a tea out of it, and it's great. It's free. Tamiflu basically comes from star anise. It's a little pod like on a juniper tree. Japan and China have it, and you take the alkaloid, and you get Tamiflu, but it's only seasonable when you can get it. They reproduce it in a lab, and now they can make $100, $150 for 10 tablets 1 week. So of course we hear about Tamiflu, but no pharmaceutical company is going to research bone set, which is another antiviral. Why would we care? Because bird flus, if they figure out their way around the treatment like Tamiflu, what do you use to fight a flu that's killing off our young people, particularly the bird flus? Not because of the flu, it's because their immune systems are strong and they drowned in their own snot. We're just older and our immune systems are for crap. And so what ends up happening basically is the fact that we don't die. It's the only flu that doesn't kill old people. But it's a flu that kills young people. But I think it's really sad that we would rather not research Tamiflu because of the money profit and let young people die. Because that was a scare a couple years ago of what happens when these bird flus get into our young population.
Pandemic,
and the bottom line was, well, it's Tamiflu or nothing. Except that is not true. But it's like it's on research. Why I think 300 years is enough. So here's kind of fun. I mean, we have 300 years of people using it with good results. I've used it. I think it's great. Bottom line is, this is our little treatment area of using OMN. People don't realize that the McManus table had a McManus stool. And that little vertebrae or spine up the back, you could put your foot in and adjust treatments based on basically the height that you want your knee in someone's back. But it is kind of fun. Most people haven't seen that. And so again, we show osteopathy manipulation through other schools, which is great. We recognize PCOM, the Kansas City schools, some of the other schools here. We see are amazing. Of course, if you've been up there, the Blumenthal lab is just amazing. We call it osteopathic cathedral. Because anyone else comes from another school or Europe and they're like, oh my gosh, it's like, yeah, this is like the Sistine Chapel of
Well, I
osteopathy.
haven't been out to PCOM in quite a while, but when I was there, their OMT lab was not that
That
big.
was not that, yeah. And you've got screens that actually are showing top, bottom, and side views of what the faculty is doing. So it's like, and there's 4 walls of it. It's like, whoa. So there really is. There's no crowding around the table. I think that was the thing is everybody crowded around. What do you say? I don't know. You know, it's like, what are they doing? I don't know. Now there's no mystery. But what I did want to show you really quick and give you guys, and I don't know if I've done this for you yet, Jeff. So give me 2 seconds.
Okay.